Once upon a time, in a bustling city, there lived a man named Marcus. Marcus was like many of us. He faced challenges every day. Traffic jams made him angry. Rude comments from co-workers upset him. Small inconveniences, like a spilled coffee, could ruin his mood for hours. Marcus often felt like life was pushing him around, and he didn't know how to stop reacting so strongly to every little thing. One evening, after a particularly frustrating day, Marcus sat in his small apartment, staring at the wall. He felt tired, not just from the day, but from the constant emotional ups and downs. He wondered if there was a better way to live, a way to stay calm, no matter what happened. That night, while scrolling through old books online, he stumbled upon a philosophy called Stoicism. At first, Marcus didn't understand much about it. But as he read, he learned that Stoicism was not about suppressing emotions. It was about understanding them and choosing how to respond. The Stoics believed that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can control how we react. This idea fascinated Marcus, and he decided to learn more. The next morning, Marcus woke up determined to practice Stoicism. As he stepped outside, he immediately faced his first test. A neighbor had parked in his usual spot. Normally, this would have made him furious. But instead of reacting, Marcus paused. He remembered a quote from the Stoic philosopher Epictetus: "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Marcus took a deep breath and parked somewhere else, refusing to let the situation ruin his morning. At work, Marcus faced another challenge. His colleague, Sarah, criticized his report in front of the team. Marcus felt his face grow hot with embarrassment. His first instinct was to snap back, but then he recalled the Stoic idea of separating facts from interpretations. Sarah's words were just words. They only had power if he gave them power. Instead of reacting with anger, Marcus nodded and said, "I'll review it again." Later, he realized her criticism actually helped him improve the report. As days passed, Marcus continued practicing Stoic principles. When his train was delayed, he used the time to read instead of complaining. When his friend canceled plans, he enjoyed a quiet evening alone instead of feeling hurt. He learned to ask himself, "Is this within my control?" If it wasn't, he practiced acceptance. If it was, he focused on what he could do, not on how he felt about it. One of the biggest tests came when Marcus lost an important project at work. His first reaction was panic. What if his boss thought he was incompetent? What if this hurt his career? But then he remembered the Stoic exercise of premeditatio malorum, or imagining the worst-case scenario beforehand. He had already considered the possibility of failure, so when it happened, he was prepared. He calmly analyzed what went wrong, made a plan to improve, and moved forward without self-pity. Over time, Marcus noticed a change. He wasn't numb or emotionless. He still felt joy, sadness, and frustration, but he no longer felt controlled by his emotions. He could step back, observe his reactions, and choose a wiser response. His relationships improved because he stopped taking things personally. His work became more focused because he wasted less energy on stress. Even his health seemed better. He slept more soundly, free from the constant churn of worry. One evening, Marcus' friend, Daniel, asked him how he had become so calm. Marcus smiled and told him about Stoicism. "It's not magic," he said. "It's just training your mind. The world will always throw problems at you, but you don't have to let them knock you down." Daniel was skeptical. "So you're telling me if someone insults you, you just don't care?" Marcus shook his head. "I care, but I ask myself, does their opinion define me? If it's not true, why should I be upset? If there's truth in it, maybe I can learn something. Either way, getting angry won't help." Daniel thought for a moment. "But what if something really bad happens, like losing your job or getting sick?" Marcus nodded. "Those things are hard, but suffering comes from resisting what we can't change. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our actions, our attitudes, and accept the rest with courage." Daniel sighed. "I don't know if I could do that." Marcus patted his shoulder. No one starts out perfect. It's like building a muscle. You practice a little every day. As the months went by, Marcus kept refining his practice. He read the works of Stoic philosophers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. He journaled each night, reflecting on his reactions and how he could improve. Some days were easier than others, but he never gave up. One winter afternoon, Marcus faced perhaps his greatest challenge. His father, who had been sick for a long time, passed away. The grief was overwhelming. For the first time in years, Marcus felt his Stoic principles crumbling. How could he accept this? How could he not react with sorrow? But then he remembered something Seneca had written: "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Grief was natural, but suffering came from resistance. Marcus allowed himself to feel the pain, but he also reminded himself that death was part of life. Instead of drowning in despair, he chose to honor his father's memory by living well. At the funeral, many people were consumed by sorrow, but Marcus found moments of gratitude for the time they had shared, the lessons his father had taught him. He didn't suppress his tears, but he also didn't let them drown him. His family noticed his strength and leaned on him for support. After that day, Marcus realized Stoicism wasn't about never feeling pain. It was about not letting pain control you. Life would always have storms, but Stoicism was the anchor that kept him steady. Years later, Marcus looked back on his journey. He was far from perfect, but he was no longer the man who raged at traffic or crumbled under criticism. He had learned that emotional reactivity was a choice, and with practice he could choose differently. And so, dear listener, the lesson of Marcus' story is simple but powerful. You don't have to be a slave to your emotions. Stoicism won't erase life's difficulties, but it will give you the tools to face them with clarity and strength. The next time you feel anger, fear, or frustration rising, pause. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If it is, act wisely. If it isn't, accept it with grace. This is the way of Stoicism. This is the path to inner strength.